Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, here for week 3 of Monster Month. This week, we come together as a group, maybe even a coven, if you trust me that much, to talk about hags. A topic I was certain we were not getting new information about last October when I originally came up with this schedule. But lo and behold, we have a grand total of 2 new hags as of last July. Well, regardless, the main body of today's topic stays the same. So come, little children, I'll take thee away into a land of knowledge. I'm not sorry. Hags are what are known as on Earth as witches, but the occupation and the species have been separated by years of tabletop. Not, of course, that there are not plenty of hags which take up the class of witch. Either way, many witches in our world were declared so due to negative views and fear of the feminine, and therefore hags on tabletop are based upon toxic femininity. You know, the desire to be seen as attractive, trumping all else. Jealousy towards other women for being other women, and raising one's daughter to be little more than a younger version of oneself, or to fulfill your own lost dreams. Recently, Pathfinder has added creatures known as Scrum to represent the toxic masculine, but we have enough on our plate today to not try to fit them in. Tell tales of the original origin of hags. Some tell of 3 sisters in the first world who were tired of being judged by their looks alone, and transformed themselves into hideous forms until someone liked them for themselves. But no one ever did. Or alternatively, they were cruel and cursed into these forms. The stories differing, of course. Either way, these 3 are said to be the first green, anise, and sea hags. Eddas claim that hags were birthed by the deities Garona or Mestema, them being born from sores on their bodies or some such. Regardless of their origins, all hags have the power to naturally form covens, a power only shared by a few other creatures, which is a power which gives 3 or more hags who work together power beyond what they can accomplish alone. So let's go through hags. Starting out with the most basic hag, we have the green hags. Named for their green skin, these are the yardsticks Edda hags, especially the weaker variants we're starting out with, are measured to. They hate beauty and love to corrupt it in any way they can. They, like many hags, can change into a form of a beautiful woman when it most suits them. However, they are the basic example of magic-using hags, the only of the 3 of what I call the common hags we are starting with, which can use magic outside of forming a coven. They are particularly skilled in primal magic, and can use animals to fulfill their will. Second is the anise hags, also known as iron hags or black hags. They are the one hag which relies 100% on physicality, not taking into account any coven spells or such. Therefore, they have developed to become one of the greatest physical threats when it comes to hags, not just having strength beyond normal levels, but having incredibly hard skin which can reduce damage from sharp objects and magic. They are also known to delight in torture, so you also have that to look forward to if one gets their claws in you. Third of the common hags are the sea hags. As the name gives away, they are aquatic creatures mostly, spending most of their time dealing with sea creatures and those on the coast. They, like the anise hags, cannot cast spells outside of a coven, but that does not mean they are without powers. They have incredible natural eye abilities, which have a variety of ways in which to weaken their prey. And what they are known best for, their ability to make deals, using limited magic to give people what they want in exchange for not much, just your voice. This is going to be a musical episode. So, to consider sea hags the weakest hag is a grave mistake. So continuing on, in some sort of categorical structure, next are the hags who have elemental powers at their disposal. The first of which will be the winter hags. These hags have control over the ice and snow, allowing them to isolate villages and extort them for whatever they desire, usually for flesh to satisfy their cannibalistic appetite. They have also been known to find villages of evil humanoids and muscle their way in to take control. In turn are Stormhead, who prefer to be alone. They find homes far away from civilization, in places where the weather is known to change swiftly, and try to stay away from all other creatures. They too are cannibalistic, as many hags actually are, but storm hags have particular preference. Children, only eating adults or other animals in truly desperate straits. In turn, this means they also show an intense hatred to those who look like children, like gnomes and halflings, because these creatures look but do not taste the same. Always good to see someone with standards. Moving on from isolationists, we have the social, the blood hag, also known as Sukeyants. They are beings made up of fire who kill and wear the flesh of beautiful women, using their physical beautiful appearances to seduce their prey. During the day they live normal lives, while at night they stalk their neighbors, eventually experimenting on and eating the poor victims. They also like bathing in human blood apparently, fitting considering last week's topic. Blood hags are also associated with fire, and so too are ash hags. Hags that, as far as we know, have only been found in the area of Cheliax. Hags which are found in only one area? Surely we're not going to be circling back to that later. Anyway, ash hags prefer to haunt areas damaged by fire, whether it be burnt fields or charred remains of buildings. They pretend to be damsels in distress to lure in their prey, and then proceed to entrap and torture them. They also are known to be, well, quite the pyromaniacs, but that kind of comes with the territory. Now with the elemental hags passed by, we have one hag unlike the others in a way which makes it unexplainably scary. Mute hags. The thing about mute hags is the rarity in which they come from actual changelings. Instead, these women are made spontaneously for mortal women. When a powerful magic user loses all faith in humanity, their magic has a chance of corrupting them, eventually leading them to conduct a ritual where they rip out their tongue, eyes, and heart. These are the strongest hags of the material plane, and they can come about without anything more than jealousy and arcane mastery needed. Consider that for a time. And with that, we have done 8 of the main 11 hags which make their home on the material plane. So let's take a step away and look at the night hags. Night hags usually are not born, instead rising from powerful dead hags. They are more associated with the astral plane, but most importantly, the River of Souls. These hags are the main providers of the soul market, finding ways to get their grubby hands on souls and then selling them to devils and demons. Demons have less use of souls. While most hags are cannibals, with these hags your immortal soul is on the line. And above even night hags are dream eater hags. These are special cases. They are born when a night hag sacrifices herself in a ritual to pour her power into a specially prepared changeling child and be reborn anew. This has a massive risk. They are doing so on the assumption that they will grow into another Hag, and that they will not rebel against fate as some changelings want to do. However, if the empowered changeling does submit to the call and lets herself be transformed into a Hag, she becomes one whose power dwarfs both that of night Hags and mute Hags, becoming the undeniable apex of Hags. Sweet dreams. And the last of the main Hags we have been given are the moon Hags. Coming from the Boneyard, these creatures all worship the god Grotus, deity of the end times. Therefore, their entire existence is spreading the word that the world is ending, and of foul prophecies, which, while they are still chaotic evil, they stand as the least evil Hags from what we have seen. True, mad ramblings can cause issues, but they do not eat children or sell souls. It is a low bar, but they are crossing it, so good on them. Now, with the main 11 we've had for a while out of the way, let's move on to some lesser known Hags. For this one, I need to avoid some spoilers. It is from a 2e book, and not an adventure or adventure path, but it's something I do not wish to spoil. Unless I make it a point to specifically talk on that book, but either way, the Sinew Hague. This Hag appears as a skinned woman, and has the power to combine and control anything missing its skin. Does not seem to be the most universally useful power, but what it lacks in variety, it makes up for in, well, presentation. Especially since it does give it the power to imitate a pretty similar creature with much different weaknesses. Another lesser known Hag is the Pith Head. These seem to be Hags connected to hell like the moon Hags are to the Boneyard. However, while used in an official Paizo adventure path, they were taken from a third-party source. They're worth the mention, but we have little on them and they probably will never appear in official work again. We round off Pathfinder with the two newest additions, the Rust Hag and the Grave Hag, both introduced in the second book of the Bloodlord's Adventure Path. I try to avoid recent information, but to ignore them would make the list incomplete. Rust Hags tend to conjugate around areas of advanced technology. They can rust objects with their touch, and are known to primarily fight with guns. Grave Hags are one of the few Hags lacking the power to change their appearance, but make up for it with powerful necromantic magic. I don't need to tell you why these two are the most associated with the Impossible Lands than the world at large. And as with last week, the finale belongs to Starfinder and the Void Hag. No one knows the origin of these Hags, and they're not exactly open to telling. They prefer isolation, usually only interacting with other Void Hags, and hate all forms of stupidity, most of which comes from other creatures. They are known for one thing above all else: their specially designed robes, which they spend decades making themselves. They are a sign of maturity among Void Hags. To not have one is cause to be ignored, and to lose one is to lose all trust of other Void Hags. They mostly can be found assisting the drow of Apostate, and also mysteriously avoiding Octurne due to old vows. Finally, a look at deities. Hags tend to be connected to the worship of many deities, but there are three who rise above the others: Girona, Mestema, and Alazra. Three consonants in a row. Mess me up every time. Girona has enough for her own video. So we'll get to her eventually. Mestema is the demon lord of Hags, and whose faith is almost the same as that of Garona's. The exception being Garona is a faith for outcasts, plotting revenge, and Mestema has her followers be destructive and cruel, for the sake of being destructive and cruel. Finally, Alazra, is as close as I'm going to get, is the leader of the Night Hags, herself being an unaffiliated demigoddess. In a sense, she is the one who originally negotiated with the daemons to start the soul trade. One might notice that these are 3 witch deities, Hag deities, so the possibility of forming a coven arises. Possibility, yes. Reality, no. As exemplars of Hags, they hate each other, enough to not even consider a coven. And that's just the way the dice falls, I guess. And that ends off week 3. But these have been the easy ones. The 4th monster is one that we are going to cover is a much broader category, and so it's going to be interesting to deal with. But before that, we cannot go a whole month without looking at another of Golarion's myriad of deities. So come back next week when we dig into the freshest of corpses. Might want to bring some wine.